Now, I've got some of your text messages here. I'll read a couple of them to you, and then I'll come back to my panelists in the studio. Dawn in the US of A writes, Samson, I believe their endorsement of Mahama by Jerry Rawlings would be a blessing for the NPP because floating voters would vote for NPP thinking Jerry wouldn't leave Mahama to be truly free, and Mahama's stature would resist him fiercely, making the nation ungovernable. Nuhu Vincent Nwa writes, Kofi must always talk what the man stands for and with caution, not to have many enemies. He should know that it was an SMS that sacked Victor Smith. This is a Pepe in Cape Coast. He writes that, I would like to know if the NDC needs Rawlings to endorse John Mahama. If so, then they should allow him to criticize where it is necessary. Bruce in Tamale writes, the NPP is very good in opposition and will remain there for so long. No name. This one writes, has the party and government's integrity been restored as former President Rawlings calls for? Okay, that's a question Eduasar is also asking. This so-called Rawlings endorsement won't do the NDC any good. The harm has already been done. And EEC in Enchi, right? Kofi Adams, you are great. I admire your objectivity, comportment, and consistency in your beliefs, attitudes, and values. Mike in Asenfoso writes, the NPP's desperation is leading them to promise free everything, only to win and apologize to Ghanaians that if you are outside government, you see things differently. Such is their strategy. Alhaji Kums in Yendi writes, even the founder of the NDC has admitted that the current NDC government has been the most corrupt government in the country so far. I call on all Guineans to vote out the NDC. And Edward Castro Sanaya writes from the Republic of Congo, sometimes I wonder if the NDC people take their time to listen to or read carefully what former President Rawlings says. I read carefully that speech. And as usual, the NDC is picking out the portion that suits them. It is in the same speech that Mr. Rawlings says corruption is deep in the ruling party and holding the resources to ransom. Why is the NDC refusing to look at the whole speech? Abdul Majid writes, what we are still not sure about is whether President Rawlings endorsed or not endorsed President Mahama. However, what is a fact is that Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa and other NDC members said even though he campaigned for the party in 2000 and 2004, the party still lost, seeking to diminish any relevance of the Rawlingses to the campaign and chances of the NDC. And a very final one by Kafui Kintampo. It is clear who the winner for the election 2012 is, and His Excellency, the former president, is only stating the obvious. President Mahama will win by a wide margin. Political prophecies. Let's see how they pan out as we get into the elections in December. Now, Kofi, I return to you, and I want you to take 3 minutes. You have a few responses to make, reactions to make. See how you can box that up in summary, and in 3 minutes tell us what you think the former president's comments are doing to the NDP that he's alleged to be supporting somewhat because his wife is interested in being the standard bearer.
Yeah, thank you. I wish we had enough time to look at it. Let me say that President Rawlings is not the propaganda secretary or the chief information officer of any party, NDC, MPP, NDP, or whoever. President Rawlings is a former head of state and therefore will speak what he feels affects the state. If the party that he's founded is doing what is right, it benefits from his character. It is his character that is of huge benefit to the party or to the organization he belongs. If that organization represents and holds up its values and principles, you would continue to benefit and enjoy from what? His character. If you do what is not right, don't expect him to come and stand there like maybe a propaganda secretary will do to try to close the bad that may be happening and only play out the good. He would want to see you because good is expected of you. So the bad you do, he want to talk about it to advertise your mind and take you off it. What he says at functions, whether private or public, that sometimes gets out or the media picks on it. Sometimes whether it is a party meeting at his residence or it is Council of Elders meeting at his residence or a funeral or a private, what he says. People say Westerns either at functions or with friends, but it doesn't get put out there. I know colleagues, many of whom, for example, were going to contest elections. The president calls them and says, oh, I want you to contest. Don't do this. Go and see so and so for them to support. They go there. The people don't help because they want to treat the president with contempt. That they treat the president with contempt. They talked about all this, but maybe because of who you are, I can say things in somewhere. It's not giving the kind of publicity that is given. But what President Rawlings has been talking about, many thousands of persons talk about it in private.
Is it President Rawlings, you say, has been treated with some contempt, even when he suggests that some people should contest?
I was talking about our late president. Sometimes I don't want to mention names. When we get there, it's always good sometimes not to mention names, you know, because when you mention names, it doesn't help. Where as well, where you want to, you feel that the people could change. Like Honorable Edward Sari said, hard work brought us victory. But what happened to hard work? Is it that we did not continue the hard work or we continue the hard work? If you want to take his case as an example, this is an MP that has worked so hard to win an election. Then it gets to the time for renewal of mandate within the party to continue to seek elections from the general electorate to represent them again in parliament. What happened? Is it that people had a different thought that they are no longer interested in hard work?
No, but
or the hard work?
Neither you nor Edward Sari or his other spokespersons have told us what really happened, because what we know is that he at a point decided that, you know what, I'm done. And then he came back and it was a bit too late. But in that constituency, yes, in the lead up to the 2008 elections, yeah, I was assigned to that constituency because of the keenness of the context. He won by a very slight margin.
I know how he worked with very minimal resources. Very, very minimal resources. The MPP then have turned Adenta as a municipality. So by so doing, trying to bring as if development closer to the people in terms of local government structures. But he still works so hard and won it. So I know what he put in. I know what it takes to win an election. I'm not a today politician. I started my politics long ago. I know what goes into winning an election, and I know what he put. But just continuing. A leader.
Your time is up.
Yeah, the leader assembles his team. I can tell you that we've never had a very powerful vice president before in this country. The president may give you some room to be able to what? Operate. But the vice president is never the most or the second most powerful person. And whether we like it or not, today, when you go to the presidency, the character of the presidency have changed. A president comes with his new team. You cannot have a situation where somebody can get up and say that either over his living body or over his dead body for somebody to be put somewhere. That can happen today under this because it has changed. The leader has changed. He may not have moved people from one ministry to the other.
I get you speaking in terms of
like he said,
of former President Rawlings that you speak for.
You have taken most of my time asking questions and not allowing me to speak.
People are listening to you.
I'm saying that
people are listening to you and they don't hear you communicate clearly.
3 minutes.
You're speaking in parables.
You're giving
you
me
are not
3 minutes.
disclosing what you're saying.
Let me use that my 3 minutes
Your 3
to
minutes
present.
is up. I'm sorry.
No.
I'm sorry.
You have spent
your
most
time is
of
up.
it asking me.
No,
What I'm saying is that President Mahama had a policy forum If he was just continuing what was being done, what was the essence of that indication that this is what I want to go? And even challenging the minister. And one minister who came to give vote of thanks assured him that they will do everything. And he said they failed to comply to his orders at their own peril.
And you say they have failed, but he hasn't acted. Is that what you're suggesting? I'm
not saying they have failed, he hasn't acted.
Okay.
I'm saying that it changes. Even though you have not moved people, their behavior and everything could change whilst they are still there.
Now, yeah.
The significance of parables, and the apostles are also delivering the same parables. But Kofi Adams has raised the stakes. He is now positioning ex-President Rawlings as a statesman, and that his pronouncements, his effusions are based on the good of all Ghana. In that case, then he stands to be questioned about NDP and his association with NDP and his inability to determine whether or not in the public space he is associated with that party. Who is to be worried about the emergence of the NDP? Is it the NDC? Is it the MPP? Or is it the Rawlingses? Because you see, if Kofi is now saying that things have changed, and Rawlings is saying things have not changed, down the line, in the event Rawlings joins the NDC, and given the publication by the Al-Hajj newspaper. NDP.
Are you analyzing?
No, the NDC or the NDP.
Okay.
Because there are two situations now. In one breath, if he is endorsed the NDC, there's the assumption that he may come together and move with them. In another situation, we do not know whether or not he will or she will with the NDP. And last week, Al-Hajj newspaper then goes on to say that Mrs. Rawlings, former First Lady, is demanding $5 million to scuttle the NDP.
From demanding
question.
From who?
Yeah, that's what the Al-Hajj is coming from. So the question is,
needs to be treated with a contempt.
But that's key. The Rawlings haven't denied that. So the question is somebody projecting a notion that the Rawlingses are bribable? Because if the Rawlingses are going to be placated with money to come back into the NDC, then it makes nonsense of all that Rawlings has been saying about the NDC. Then his credibility will simply be torn to shreds. So the question that where he stands now, he really must be bold and come out and say once and for all that, listen, I have set up the NDP and I'm associated with them because they are the source where my wellspring of probity, accountability, and responsiveness can be protected and remain pure. Or I have reconciled with the NDC because I believe John Mahama has changed things. And yet he observed himself that nothing has changed. The people are the same, and a handful of people have actually taken our resources, and it's so deep. Question. And Adwasari has challenged him. Are you bold enough to name them now? And if you are not, and we don't see changes of personnel, we don't see real changes to do with the people who are associated with that deep corruption coming out of their shells within the NDC, and you choose to cross the line to the NDC, then who is to accept you at statesperson level?
Any corruption?
You see?
Have you, as an opponent, seen any corruption?
In the NDC? You want me to list them now? The settlement debt saga, the ongoing settlement debt saga is not corruption.
Which one of them?
Exactly. Which one of them? There's
so
many of them.
I want to be clear, because as far as I know, some are before the court, and the court can only determine that.
Yes, but there are political appointees associated with the Wayomi saga before court, who haven't been brought to the court, who haven't even been interrogated, who played key roles.
Determine that.
Please, we all know that the presidency, an ECO report was issued where the presidency said, His Excellency the President, late President, said that he had stopped that payment twice. Up to now, we don't know whether he told the governor, now Vice President Misata. We don't know whether he told Dr. Dufour, the finance minister.
Said he was never told anything when he went for the vetting.
The governor said he was not told. Yes. So was Dr. Dufour told?
So
if Dr. Dufour was told twice, why did he pay? If Betty Mould was told twice, why did she pay? Why is the evidence of that telling? You understand? So there are issues.
So who are you questioning now? The late president or the current president?
Sorry, but your time is up.
Are you questioning the late president or the current president?
We have a lot of issues to deal with.
We are questioning
Unfortunately, we don't have too much
President Rawlings' motives now. Because if President Rawlings moves across the divide into the NDC, the old situation is totally negative as far as his convictions are concerned.
Thank you. Mr. Edwasari, 3 minutes.
Yeah, I think that for us, or for those of us with, even though our little experience in Parliament, or let's say before I even got there, or whatever has to do with planning and executing campaigns, yes, every person is important. There are people. I am a Rawlings man, and I have said it wherever I have been. He inspired me into politics. So whatever I'm saying, it's not because I have something against him, but I try to analyze the consistency of what he says. And I hope that is not personal. I am saying that, yes, he will play an integral role in any party that he chooses to be with. I know him as a founder, as the founder of NDC. And for that matter, I don't want to hazard any thought that he is going to leave the NDC for the MPP. I still hold that strong belief. But then, sometimes the kinds of things he says makes it difficult for one to decipher what exactly or where exactly he belongs. And also, let's not forget that before President Mills died, the dynamics were different. And now, things have changed. Two ways. One, because there was this section of the party that thought that, hey, why don't all of us come together, pool our resources together, pool our strengths and weaknesses together, and move into the campaigns with President Rawlings, just even though there were the signs on the wall that certain things were in the offing. This issue about logo of the party, the formation of, all of these things started, drawing some let me say, this affection towards him. Okay, because people were of the view that these things are generated from his home. Okay, and this has led to, or it led to a point where I will hazard to say again here that people were no longer, and that enthusiasm towards him was dwindling. Okay, so in the demise of the president, the dynamics again has changed. So I am saying here that, yes, I was outside though, but then I came and watched pictures of whatever took place in Kumasi. And I thought it was, I'm sure he felt very good when the response from the people, the cheers, the uproar and all of that. I'm sure it brings back certain nostalgic memories of what he nearly probably lost. Okay, so I think no, please, Kofi, we are all NDC, as you know, and we may differ in ideas, but we also have people on the ground. I am an MP, I have constituents, and they visit me, they talk, party members who come and discuss issues with you, trying to find out what is really going on and all of that. So it's not a one-sided argument we are having. At the end of the day, I think that Rawlings will be a beneficiary, the best among whatever will happen if he stays with the NDC, because we are prepared to honor him or continue to honor him. You should honor him by keeping up the values and principles. That is what he wants. That is an issue. That is what he wants. Honor him with that. Listen, that's where he says that. That's what he wants. Let's honor him with that.
Thank you.
With some debate, because if we want to wade into that, we'll need more time to sort issues out.
Thank you, Abdul Malik. Now, 3 minutes.
Yeah, the point about Kofi was making a very interesting point, that perhaps this is the first time we've had a very powerful vice president. Kofi, you said that, didn't you?
Yes, I said the country has never had a very powerful vice president, like, for example, who has contributed so much to the success of a government or a party. And that when the person shifts, you expect him to also do something different from what his boss has been doing.
I appreciate that point, and that is in the person of President Mahama. Are we right? That's part of his weakness as well. Could be strength, and it could also be weakness. And that's the point I was making, that the overall indictment of the NDC3 administration under the able leadership of former President Mills is equally an indictment of then Vice President Mahama. It is. You see, you cannot extricate one from the other. So I am saying that Mr. Rawlings, and I see where my brother was coming from, Edu Asari, and I appreciate that point. Rawlings is a very street smart man, very politically smart. 90 years in governance gave him some heightened IQ, you know. And I can tell you that clearly he's seeking to find ways and means of ensuring that he remains in the good books of the NDC if the NDC should win the elections.
He's the founder of the NDC.
Yes, but I can tell you. And John Mahama, President Mahama, will not avoid or negate that opportunity. As I indicated earlier, it's in their collective interest. We all sat here many times and questioned leadership for its failure to reconcile. We questioned both the late former president, we questioned President Rawlings himself for his own inability to readjust properly, and said all those things combined to create the leadership paralysis that the NDC was suffering. We said it was a failure of leadership. And now we are told that the divine intervention, which has taken away our former president, has provided an opportunity for reconciliation. It's a bit weird. I find it difficult to accept that it was divine intervention and that wording, that the way it is put, it's difficult for me to accept, but let's say that I'm quoting or paraphrasing. So it has created a condition. And Mr. Rawlings is smart. And so he's put one leg there in preparation to cross the bridge when the possibility is offered, particularly if his party should win the election. That's why he started playing now, oh, possibility, spark, all that. That is Rawlings for you. He's being street smart and politically sharp. The obstacle he will confront, truly, is the NDP. That is, if his wife mounts that platform, then he's going to be really hugely challenged in the game that he's playing. And that would disrupt the possibility of true reconciliation. Otherwise, I am sure President Mahama, in exerting his leadership, would not bother at all creating the platform for reconciliation.
You're still watching Newsfile on your Joy News channel. This is also on Joy 99.7 FM and over a dozen of affiliate stations across the country, on Love 99.5 FM in Kumasi. My name is Samson Ladia Yanini. My guests in the studio you have been listening to so far, Abdul Malik Okubaku Jr., Kofi Adams, you have heard Wabenga Samoa and Coach
to extort monies and otherwise. These are to extort monies and otherwise. These are all matters on the tape. Then he says, oh no, these cards were for the Sunyani Congress. But Yabuatin Jan says that he is seeking these cards to monitor the NDP. This is what Yabuatin Jan says. Now, assuming Bevlulate's words that it's for the Sunyani Congress were to be accepted at face value, the president and the vice president and the entire government were at Sunyani. He, Bevlulate himself, was there. Did he need, with he himself and the entire national security apparatus and the military and the police and all the people, did he still need to issue national security IDs to party security? I'm not saying the party cannot have its own security. All the parties have their own security to manage processes. You are managing crowds. You are mobilizing people. But those people remain at that level, civilian. But to issue national security ID cards to party security? So the question is
briefly, let me sincerely apologize to our listeners, to those who are listening to us via radio. We went on, briefly we went off, we lost our signals. I'm told that we are back, and we hope that the signals will not be interrupted any longer as we continue with the discussion. This is Newsfile, your most authoritative news analysis show.
So for me to conclude, to the extent that Bevlulate has not been able to debunk the fear that the current national security apparatus we have will have people in there who are not focused on our common security, but on the NDC's security. In other words, Yabuatin Jan's security. Then it means that his intervention is lost on us. His intervention does not reassure us to any extent. When we go into the election, how do we know who is a genuine national security and who is Yabuatin Jan's security? To the extent that he hasn't been able to tell us that this is how he's going to deal with that notion that has been raised. Indeed, are there security people there in the special forces now, in the national security apparatus, who ought not to have national ID cards? He hasn't been able to tell us that. And if there are such people, how do we as a nation determine who is tainted? If somebody approaches you and says, I'm national security, how do you determine the person's right to exert life and death authority over you? Because only the security services have legal rights to terminate your life. It's vested in the government by the Constitution, and they have a right to terminate your life if you resist them or otherwise. They have a right to use force of arms against us. So if somebody intends to subvert that right, to use it in their partisan interest, that partisan interest can never, and I'm yet to be convinced, can never be the interest of all Ghanaians. They have an interest to maintain power at all costs, in spite of the corruption, in spite of everything else.
The things you're talking about are not on the tape.
Thank you very much. That's why I'm saying that he should have allowed his spokesperson or somebody to say that they are not on the tape. Then when we question that spokesperson, he can then come out and tell us authoritatively the investigative processes that have been gone through, whether there's a technical report, whether and who conducted that report, and the basis for assessing this report. But for him to come out and say it, we believe it's a cover-up, he's hiding something, and he ought to have done better. He's jumped the gun and he hasn't reassured us.
What should be done?
What should be done? We should have an independent judicial investigation. There are many retired judges.
Thank you very much
put
for
together
that one. Now,
investigate the tape.
Now, Kofi Adams, now, the police has also been petitioned over this matter. Do you agree with those who are suggesting that let's leave it to the police CID and not the national security, as it were?
Yeah, of course, they are charged to look into matters that they feel affects the state. And so if the police CID has been petitioned, who am I to say that they should not look into the matter? It's a matter that is of concern to many persons. Whether it is true or not is not the issue here.
You have listened to the tape, haven't you?
I listened to what has been played on various networks and bits and pieces.
Which
and
has been
commentary,
admitted and not denied.
Commentary, but I heard him say that, yes, it's his voice, but some sections of it have been doctored. I also heard the General Secretary say on Asempa FM, that day I was on that platform later, saying that the tape has been doctored. So that is what we have now. But I do know that, you see, I have a difficulty discussing this matter because this is comments being made by, we've had various tapes. We've had the Baba's tape syndrome with some meeting in Upper East that he said it's not his because it wasn't clear. I remember at that time the Ministry of Information were able to do a press conference to play some techno phone that is possible to do such things. Then it went on and on and on, not too long. Then my issue also came out with the tape. I was never given opportunity. I said, yes, I've had interaction with Gabi, but certain things that I'm hearing doesn't sound my voice, especially the tonation, so very low, some of it so very high. But the party didn't believe it. The General Secretary was there, Yabuatinjan was there. These were the ones who were really pushing for action to be done. Fortunately or unfortunately, then his also comes up. He admits that, yes, he's had that meeting, but it's been doctored. When, in his case, the voice or the ability is virtually of the same level all through, but he believes strongly that somebody has tampered with some sections and introduced some things that he would not have said.
Even so, the National Security Coordinator is saying that there's nothing worth investigating. Is that a view you share?
I have not listened to the tape so fully, but I have heard, if what I've heard is true, like a citizen of this country feels that he's being overly monitored and his movement is being threatened, then it's something that should be of concern to the security agents. But I don't think maybe that should be the work of National Security Coordinator. That could be done by the police who are supposed to take care of the internal security and then what have you. That arrangement could be done. There are concerns of whether who is responsible for the special forces. I think it's the Ghana Armed Forces, not the National Security Coordinator. So it is for them to also come and assure us that their system is such that they will not allow any civilian to give them orders as to what to do. The aspect that has to do with the National Security Coordinator was that they have issued ID cards to persons, which I'm told, I didn't hear the National Security Coordinator, but if what he is saying that those cards were issued for the Congress, then he had explained that maybe possibly there's nothing directly that may affect or concern the outfit, the national security outfit that he is in charge. But it doesn't mean that there may not be other things that will be of interest to some other institution, like the issue of the special forces. The military may be interested. They may want to come and clear themselves that, look, the procedure we put in place is such that no single person or any civilian could influence the process. You may advise your people to come and apply. If they are so qualified, they will be taken. But I know the type of training that the military gives to each person or a security institution is supposed to give. When you go through it, even if you are MPP constituency secretary or NDC propaganda secretary in the past and you go through that training, you come out different. You come out different. It's like any other profession. You may be a rabble-rouser, someone who doesn't believe in the workings of the law or this and that. When you go through the legal training, by the time you come out, you believe, you change. You come out a changed person. So you may be anything when you go in and go through that training. So maybe the military will also have to come and assure us as to what they have done, the processes they went about getting the special forces, if they exist, who and how. Like they've been publicizing the other processes, they may have to do so. But I think the CID could still investigate. But the party did not handle this matter so well to some of us our satisfaction. It could have saved possibly even the president or the flag bearer from being drawn into the matter. When you fail to use your first...
Acted in the manner they did with you?
Not necessarily the way they... I don't think that in such a critical period of an election, you ask your national organizer who has done a lot of activities for you just to get off there. I believe that the party could have quickly issued a statement that, look, we don't have any such plans. We don't intend to do so. Our national organizer has admitted to meeting some persons. There is no way we will not mandate any officer to recruit people or to issue people with identification that they are not deserving of. And we expect the security agencies to do their ultimate best to have these elections organized in a peaceful, transparent atmosphere. The part where you go in and begin to push as party leadership that the voice is doctored, this and that, part of it, and when you have not believed that in the past, you allow for some kind of debating and political interference and interpretation that draws in now the president that come and talk, this one should do this one should do that. That is where I thought that we did not handle the matter well. But I don't think that we should, the national organizer should be asked to leave because of this situation.
Newsfile is brought to you by MTN Everywhere You Go and Bank of Africa. Abdul Malik Okubako Jr., Bevlu Latte, you have heard him. He's very clear on that. Look, I've listened 5 times. There's nothing worth investigating because there's no security implication whatsoever. We have put meanings and giving, you know, comments that really don't exist in the tape.
Well. You know, I think that one can respect his style, a very open, proactive style. He loves to go on radio to respond to issues affecting his office or issues of national security. That's his style. Who am I to challenge him on that? I've seen other national security coordinators like the Kwansins and the Francis Pokus who kept out of, you know, reacting on radio to issues. Sometimes the position you hold is such that not taking part actively in responding to things on radio helps, okay? Because there's the possibility of being dragged into a contested political debate. And the kind of position you hold, in his case, you know, he's an employee of the state, National Security Coordinator. Section 18(1) says there shall be appointed by the president in accordance with
what are you reading?
The National Security and Intelligence Agencies Act, 1996. Right. There shall be appointed by the president in accordance with the advice of the council, given in consultation with the Public Services Commission, an officer to be designated as a National Security Coordinator, referred to in this act as the coordinator. And then you are given the functions. Broadly speaking, I see nowhere in the functions, and I'm sure I'm not going to be described as a naive interpreter of this thing, that you have to go on air to respond to issues. I think that's a weakness. It's a style, but in my candid opinion, it's a weakness, and that carries with it trouble.
It overly exposes you. Maybe.
And when the issues are too politicized and political, you are not careful, it creates problems. There's a contest over what you've said, and it can take away some credibility and integrity from what you are doing or saying. Now, see, he's made a judgment. The judgment is that the tape has no value, any security value, worthy of investigation. Is that not what he said? What he's made that point. It's a judgment. So, the issues that have come up, for instance, the mode of recruitment into the special forces, I've heard him explain that those, even if maybe Wafayao himself didn't even know the mode of recruitment, and that even the regular soldiers cannot just transit easily into the special forces. And I agree with him that it's a rigorous exercise and all that, but he's judged that whatever Wafayao Jan was saying is of no material value because it's not possible for him to do it. How can we be sure about that? What kind of investigations were carried out? Who were the witnesses that were invited apart from Wafayao Jan? What material was the subject of the scrutiny? That is the tape. Where did they get the tape from? Is it the original tape from Oman FM, which I'm told was 35 minutes, that was played for the first time? Or is it the excerpts that have been played in the various radio stations that they monitored? We don't know. Because he's spoken ahead of even police investigations. The CID is part of the national security, is deemed to be part of the intelligence agencies that fall under his remit. CID has been petitioned to look into the matter. The judgment the National Security Coordinator has given, in my candid opinion, is preemptive prejudicial and premature relative to what the CID is going to do. It's finished. I don't see how the CID is going to say something different from what he's saying. Now, he said he didn't hear that equal to one on the tape he listened. That immediately made me wake up. So what tape was it? Now, equal to his case is here, is talking about the safety and security of a citizen. Okay? Yes, sir. And it falls within the remit of the police or any of the investigative law enforcement agencies. But this judgment he's giving, because he didn't hear this, it's gone. In his judgment, he's thrown it away. The question of past, and it's on the tape, soldiers who were serving soldiers, but who used to come and work at party headquarters. I'm sure you've heard that thing on the tape. Now, how does that not undermine the professionalism of the armed forces? And so, is it something that should be dismissed? You see, you may not have found a smoking gun, but there were things that would not help to create a conducive environment for peace and law and order and security relative to the elections. That is why I think that the National Security Coordinator was too quick in putting out his judgment. In view of that, I think the best thing now they should do is to give us a formal report. The National Security Coordinator should give this country a formal report as to how they conducted the investigations, the witnesses that were invited for the investigations, the materials that were used for the investigations, and how they arrived by the conclusion. I would not have demanded this from him, but the fact that he is spoken and what he has said has become a source of controversy. In view of that, the cure for whatever mischief his judgment has created, they must give us a formal report in the name of the transparency and openness that he seeks to promote.
Okay, I think we can end on that note with you, Abdul Malik Kubaka Jr. Now, Honorable Edu Asare.
Right. I think I listened to the National Security Coordinator when he was responding to the issue about the Boating tape, and he was emphatic on the fact that this the tape does not warrant any, or it doesn't carry any. I'm putting that in my own quotes. Serious security implication on the country, and for that matter, it doesn't require that much attention. Well, like Kweku said, others have picked on various portions of whatever they heard on that tape and reported on it. I haven't had the occasion to listen to all the so-called 35-minute tape, part of which Aboatinja himself has, said were not part of what he said. In all of this, I think, yes, the party had a role to play, and I think I agree with Kofi Adams when it comes to where the party had to issue a statement, as to whatever they think of the comments on the tape. That wasn't, I think the General Secretary spoke, but of course we can as well stand behind him because he is the General Secretary and the chief scribe for the party. So when he speaks, we assume that he has made his consultations, and so he's speaking on behalf of the party. Of course, I am not saying, or I won't sit here and say that whatever is on that tape should not be investigated. But when you hear our friends from the NPP being or pontificating the call for investigation so strongly, then you also want to find whether in their own stables how they reacted to certain tips that also came out in the open. The famous or infamous all that be dies, whatever, and one that my own friend Samir Uku also put out. We've heard all of these things, and I would have expected my friend Yabuabi to if you know this posture, you know, the seriousness that he applies to this particular
thing. You agree with Bevlolati?
Well, I do, because for me, I think if we are going to start talking about tapes, we can't do this in isolation.
No, let's limit it to this.
No, it's not fair.
This is what we are talking about
It's not fair.
Let's limit it to this one.
Let's broaden the argument.
Bevlolati has listened to the tape 5 times. How many times have you listened to it?
Unfortunately, I haven't had. He said he has transcribed or they transcribed word to word.
Have you listened to the tape?
I have listened to some portions.
The portions that you have heard, do they agree with what he has said?
I have not heard Yabuatin himself pointing out those portions that he claims were not his voice. He hasn't come out to say, this is my voice, this part is not my voice.
Nonetheless, that is what Bevlolati tells us has been transcribed and listened to 5 times.
Listened to.
Yes. So let's take it that.
He also went ahead to say
the
that
the presumption is that this admitted tape, doctored, is what Bevlolati has transcribed and listened to 5 times and finds no need for investigations. It's the same that you have listened to portions. The portions you have listened to.
You see,
is there cause for any concern?
For me, I think, you see, if you analyze the portion where the Special Forces issue comes in, as Kweku said, I am a son of an ex-serviceman. And if there's one institution that I respect and I will always do, it's the military. The discipline is par excellent. You understand? So if someone tells me you can walk somebody through to become a soldier, that's a joke.
Okay, so he may have said so, but let's treat it as a joke.
Well, what I'm saying is, sometimes we also have to analyze some things. Otherwise, anything that is put out there, we'll go chasing it. Do you understand? I mean, let's do some intellectual exercise with the content and see whether whatever is being claimed in that mistake is even.
You see, I was asking you that question because I think that, and like many other people, they want the National Security Coordinator to say, look, treat what he said as a joke. Because we have heard many other communicators say, treat it as a joke. So that we will agree that, yes, he's made these comments. Nonetheless, our National Security Coordinator wants us to treat them as a joke. But to say that what he said has no any security implications is what many disagree with.
Well, he's sitting there. He has the logistics and the apparatus to determine what will pose a risk to our nation.
Oh, you can't do that.
No, you and I don't have.
Oh, I should be able to tell.
No, you can tell, but he has more ears on the ground. In the next 5 minutes, the information he can pick, it will take you like 5 days to do so. You understand? So I'm sure, or I want to believe, that he has his office well in place.
Okay, more specifically, can we do it this way, briefly? If you have listened to the portions, have you heard the part where he speaks about procuring national security IDs for the loyalists?
See, that's the point I'm
making. No, can we do a very simple exercise?
No, it
have
can't
you heard
be simple.
That portion?
You see, when you narrow me to that corner, I can't.
No, have you heard that portion?
I have. So let me tell you what I deduce from that.
Is it your view that we should treat that as a joke, or that he didn't say so?
You see, that when you accept that, then you are again indicting the national security apparatus in its entirety. And for me, I don't think we've gotten to that point where we can indict our national security to that level. Listen, I'm also not saying that it is not possible. Because, listen, I will be very candid with you. In 2008, when, I think a week before the elections, when the security forces or services were supposed to vote ahead of the day itself, there was a policeman who was brought to the police center at the police station. That was where it was done. This man came and sat there, tall, huge, in police uniform with a gun. When I got there, I asked him, please, who are you? He said, why am I asking him that question? I said, where is your number, whatever I want to? Because before then, we had heard a number of things. This tape, some of them that appeared later, we had hints that some people were being recruited, will be given police uniform to manage police centers.
So you are in fact admitting to the possibility of what the Alex have said.
Listen, I am saying that to go to these lengths to get away from this tape. Insinuations of this nature.
Just be quiet.
Please. Let's get serious about this,
commander.
Okay. Please finish in 2 minutes.
I went to the commander and asked him.
So you are saying that the NDC has
oh my God. That is you're saying,
no, what you are saying now?
Please allow
when you eat the head,
you are now saying
when you eat the head of something, is it
what an insinuation?
A cat or something?
Laughable.
It makes you dream.
Laughable.
You know,
I'm
so
a dreaming cat. I enjoy that.
It makes you dream something.
This
So,
dreaming cat
oh my
will
God.
not accept the assurances that you are giving
Can
now.
you be quiet whilst I talk, please? You see, so I went to the commander and asked him, if I don't see this man in whatever it is, remove him from here. He did. He did. So what does it tell you? So the MPP are afraid of their own shadows. I am telling you.
But I think you should have gone a step further.
You also heard about Lord Cummings.
In that
you also heard about Lord Cummings.
Mr. Dwasari, you should have gone further. You should have gone further. Yes. To ensure that this gentleman, this man you are referring to, was dealt with according to the law. Because if he was not a policeman and was there as an imposter, he ought to have been dealt with, and that is criminal.
My first submission,
all right, my production tells me that we have to take a break willy-nilly at this point. We'll go for a quick break. We'll be right back.